Hello, I'm Matt. I'm making YouTube videos not because I think anyone wants to hear them, but because I want to talk. I've been doing some writing online for a while, and I think writing's good. I get a lot out of my system, but it's a different pace than talking. And I think I need to talk. I spend a lot of time on the computer. I'm a software developer. I work at home, privilege, I know, but I end up venting a lot to my wife and daughter because they're the only people I really talk to in person, not on a screen. So, yeah, that's the reason to try and start putting things on YouTube that I don't expect anyone to listen to. Maybe myself or someone in my family. Hopefully, people can relate. I'm like 30 something years old, so yay, millennials. Um, my experience is probably nothing like yours, but maybe I've experienced similar things that you have. So, the way I thought I'd structure while my venting is that feel free to hate me for this. I've been making some music on Suno, and I wrote this song. Well, I wrote the lyrics to the song and then generated the music. The name of the song was "Don't Touch That," and it was basically a broad attack against the boomer class, Epstein class, whatever you want to call it. Basically, old people that have money, because there's also old people that don't have money, and I'm not attacking them. I don't really care about that whole shtick, but in the song, there's a segment that I tried to do like a "We Don't Start the Fire" setup. It was student loans, unaffordable homes, medical debt, for profit internet, white private schools, private pools, social security, CNN, liberal purity. And so I thought I'd just make a video about each section because I think all of them are things that really bother me and are probably what's, like, to put in a nutshell, what's kind of screwing up our whole country. Like, sure, bombing Iran is terrible. We've been bombing the Middle East my entire life, so I don't think that's new. But 30 years ago, you could buy a house if you had a normal salary, and I make very good money, and I don't feel like houses are very affordable. But that'll probably be the next video. This one is actually something I'm not really familiar with, but I have friends that are, which is student loans. Oh, this camera is gonna freak out on me the whole time too. So, student loans, I could send, I could put graphs up, but I'm not going to do that because I'm too lazy. And there are better videos you could watch where people put graphs up and it just goes up and to the right of like, hey, it used to cost your salary per year to go to school, and now it's at 7 times that, 10 times that. There's all sorts of different, your salary being like a waiter, something like normal, not a software developer or a lawyer or whatever crazy salaries. But that's just gone away. Like, there was a time, 20-ish, 30-ish years, basically then in World War II, where going to school was encouraged and affordable. Like, it was like, hey, go to college. And there's all sorts of people. There's the guy who runs Palantir who's like, don't go to school anymore. Come work for us. And people all over the internet will tell you, don't go to school. And it's just bullshit. Like, everyone I know that has not gone to school does not make good money. Like, I don't know a single person who's a millionaire or a billionaire or even just pulling down six figures who didn't go to a 4 years college or, grad school, master's, medical school, all this stuff. Like, these are the true gates to money. And people like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg that are like, I dropped out, they also used all the connections they got in school. They used the opportunities they got there. And then they dropped out because they were like, oh, I got what I needed. And the student loans thing is it's just tragic because I don't have student loans. I have a mom who is very wealthy, makes very good money. Her college was paid for by her parents. She paid for mine. I don't have 200 grand in debt that I've been paying, on for the last 5 or 10 years. That's like a huge boon. I mean, there's like no greater disparity, I feel like, between rich and poor people than the ability to just not be saddled with a shit ton of debt. And I'm not going to talk about homes. That's the other side of a shit ton of debt. But if you want to be successful in America, you need some skills or you need some connections. And you just don't really get that without, I mean, you can go into the trades, but my understanding of the trades, I had a stepdad who a lot of friends were contractors. So much of people working in that field are basically family. It's like your dad's a stonemason, so you're a stonemason. Your dad's running a contractor business, so you're a contractor. It's freaking blur. Um, that's not like an open opportunity. And you would argue maybe the universities are. Everyone's going to school in America. You're required to. So you get to an age and you say, hey, do I go to college or not? And there were other things to do in this country besides go to college, but in over the course of my life, that has basically gone away. Like the United States middle class was all people working in factories and working jobs that have all been globalized. So we shouldn't pretend like there's a lot of opportunity open to people that isn't the colleges and universities in this country, because there isn't. I mean, there's a shortage of plumbers and electricians and all this stuff. Over every time I've used a plumber or electrician, they're either someone really old or they're an immigrant. And this is not anti-immigrant. It's just that it's a family thing. They get trained. You know, Mexican. There was a huge amount of Ukrainians where I used to live, and they were all the contractors. Every single one of them. They had these family businesses where they taught their kids, they taught the other teenage Ukrainians there. So if we're going to pretend like there are all these opportunities outside of the schools, it's just bullshit. The opportunities that this country has that are open to everyone is like go to school and then go to more school. But going to more school means these freaking loans, which besides the loans, because the cost has just shot up, you have to consider the rejection rates. I got rejected from a ton of schools. I applied to all these Ivy Leagues and sure smart, but didn't check enough of their boxes right. You got to be like star athlete, star musician. You have to have like done something that no other kid at the school did. Like this one girl went to MIT at my school. She won like some science competition. I didn't do any of that shit. It was such a you know gauntlet that you have to go through to get into the best of the best schools. I would gotten into Georgetown. Georgetown's a very good school. I made very good friends, good connections, got a good job after. It still cost my mother over 200 grand to send me there. Like, and this is 10 years ago. I'm sure it's even more now. And it just shouldn't be that way. Like, I said before that it's just a class thing. Like the only difference between me and another kid who went to Georgetown who was poor is I didn't get the student loans, but they did. And I talked with a lot of my friends who did, and they'd be paying them off for years. It just eats into whatever money they were going to set aside. I bought an apartment 3 years after I graduated, and my mom gave me money to do it too. But I still could have afforded like a crappier down payment because I wasn't paying student loans. I wasn't doing all this other stuff to fight debt. I didn't have credit card debt. There's all these things that are just such like obvious ladder pulls They're just so. I mean, because all debt is an obligation to give other people your money for a long time, right? You buy a house, you're like, I'm gonna give the bank. If you buy a house for 100 grand and you have an interest rate that's 3, 5%, whatever, over 30 years, you basically give the bank double that or more. You're gonna give them over 200 grand. That's how compounding works. I've seen they can show amortization, whatever. All this crap is basically just you're paying them money for a long time. That's how loans work, right? The the student loans thing, though, a house is a house or an apartment, whatever, right? Like it's a physical asset. Education is not all equal, and it's not clear to me that it's always justified that you get student loans because, like, did you make connections that pay out to make up for that amount of money? Did you meet people? Did you learn something or things that are worth that amount of money? Not the 200 grand, let's say, but it's 300, 400, do the math on the loans. Use a loan calculator. You see how much you actually pay. It's not the amount of money you borrowed. It's that plus interest compounded, which is crap. And it's just for poor people, right? Like you can't afford it. Your parents can't afford it. So you will pay. Your parents will pay for years and years and years. And I talked about rejection, and I think that's kind of the core of it. Like Harvard, Stanford, all these guys have like percentage acceptance rates, right? Like 2%, 4%, 5%, 1%. That's a scarcity mindset. Like Scott Calloway is all about it. It's just, we are going to keep most of the people out. We're going to charge a frick ton of money to people. Harvard, they're like, we're going to keep everybody out, but the people we let in will make them pay a ton of money unless they're poor. And they talk about being need blind. They sound great. Look how much they're helping the world. How many people did they reject, though, that they essentially aren't helping? And it's not a financial thing because Harvard has like a huge endowment, a bunch of money basically set aside that they can invest and do whatever they want with. They have billions of dollars. Why don't they spend that on like more seats? Like, why isn't all of Cambridge just freaking Harvard buildings? Maybe it already is. I don't know. Skyscrapers, whatever they need to do. They have all this money, but it's easier to just shut the door on more people. And when you create scarcity, but demand is still high, they can charge whatever they want. International students always have to pay full tuition. They, on their website, Harvard or all of them will show you, based off your parents' income, this is how much you would have to pay in tuition. But there's things like living in the dorm, food, books, all that stuff. You still have to get covered in some way. And I bet you, if you're the poorest of poor kid, you go to Harvard, you're still paying for stuff. You're still living in Boston or outside of it in like a super expensive city. You can't pretend like Harvard is just giving away money because they're not. I mean, they're making it up in the other places. If there's this category of people that don't pay, these category of people are paying for them. These places are businesses. They're not. They can pretend to be these holy institutions, but I think they're the value that they provide, getting people connected and hopefully educating them. I mean, that's that's kind of my next thing, which is I work in all this AI space, and I do not know that these institutions can survive this AI stuff. Like if the professors are using ChatGPT to generate and grade papers, the students are using them to generate papers themselves. It's just totally happening. I mean, it's not like, oh, I made this up. Like I know people that are going to school, they talk about how rampant it is. The whole model of education is just screwed if they just keep plowing money into, you know, the current ways that they do things, these loan programs, etc., and then kids aren't learning anything or aren't making connections because they just use the AI tools, whatever it is. That's just it's just stupid for TED. Like they don't have to change. Like some of the history of these schools are interesting. Like Harvard or any of these. This isn't to take the piss out of Harvard. They rejected me, but good. I didn't deserve to go there. Whatever. These are like 400-year-old schools. Like these were all seminaries. They were basically a bunch of priests running these schools, and they being school overall has basically been run the same way as it has for hundreds of years, where kids come in, they information shoved into their head, and they have to regurgitate it. And I don't see society working that way. Like we don't benefit from people being regurgitative. Like people need to make things or do things. And there's some of that in school, but any aspect of it that is just filling in boxes, demonstrating that you've memorized information. I mean, these tools are as good or better than any of the students are going to be. So, student loans. I don't see any reason why things are the way they are, other than that it benefits a handful of people and then punishes a huge generation, right? Millennials and Gen Z both have been severely punished by the system. Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant.